In this video, we're going to look at how to run an AI brand audit. And the first thing you're wondering is, what is an AI brand audit? Well, what we're finding out is more and more people are using AI assistants like ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity to do everything from help them with recipes to things like product research. So if I want to know, hey, what's the best wireless headphones for under $200, I can get a summary of that goes out and aggregates 6 or 7 different sources for me, all with one prompt, never having to click through. So that's great for me as a consumer. For you as someone who runs a business or is in marketing, you want to know that your brand is being featured appropriately and accurately and often in these AI chats. And because they're individual chats and there's no tools that can help you with any visibility or anything like that, basically it's very, very difficult to understand exactly how and when you're being featured. So running an AI brand audit is a good way to do that. So I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to use the tool Spyglasses, but most importantly here, you don't need a specific tool to do this. You can run all these things yourself. I'm going to show you how to do that. This is just for convenience. You don't need to be a big brand to do this. In fact, an AI brand audit is probably more important if you're a small or local business, because you're also appearing in these chats and you don't nearly have the resources of a major brand to understand how and why. So if you're a yoga studio or an insurance company or a restaurant, you should be running these just as often as a major established brand like Peloton. So first thing that you should do is skip through the summary here, and we'll start with the brand snapshot. You should have this kind of data already, so you know your company name. If you have a tagline, you want to record that down. How do you price? What business category do you think you fit into? You should know your target audience. And then the other thing you really need to have a handle on, because AI summarizes you down to just these things, are your key features, your problem solved, and your differentiators. If you don't have a good handle on those, no amount of AI brand audit is going to help you. But that's where it starts, is just having this. So what you want to do is take this information, and then periodically, we'll talk about how frequently to run this in a little bit, but you want to run a query and ask each of the AIs you care about to tell you what it knows about your brand. And you want to do this in 2 ways. And I'm going to skip down past Claude all the way to ChatGPT, only because it's the most popular of these AI assistants and it's the one you're most likely to be featured in. So you want to take ChatGPT. It's easier to do this if you have a pro account, but you don't need to. And you're going to ask it the same question twice. The question you're going to ask is, what is the brand? Peloton in this case. If you need to identify your domain name to make it unique, that's fine. Who is it for? What are its features? Who it helps with? Who are my competitors? How am I priced? And you're going to ask it those questions, and it's going to come up with a summary that looks a little bit like this. And I mentioned you want to run this twice. You've probably noticed this if you use ChatGPT, that it will often go out and it will search the web in real time to pull in information to support its answers. But it doesn't always do this. That depends on a lot of factors, including whether or not it's a paid account or a free account. So you want to run it twice. In the interface, there's a little toggle that you can turn off web browsing. So you want to ask the same question of ChatGPT twice, with web browsing and without. And you'll see here, this is what it gives you when you ask ChatGPT without web browsing what Peloton is. And below this, we have the same thing with browsing turned on. So in this case, because it isn't a large brand, they're pretty consistent. A smaller brand, these will very likely be different. In a lot of cases, when you don't use web browsing, ChatGPT may not know anything about the brand at all. That's just something that takes time. Like, it is constantly crawling the web to understand more of businesses. So that's okay if it turns out that you don't show in ChatGPT without web browsing. But you want to run this twice for every platform that you want to measure against. This tool runs it against for ChatGPT, we saw Claude up there, Perplexity, and then Google Gemini is the last one. So what this is going to do, or what you want to do here, is take the answers that it gives you, and if you want to, it helps actually to ask it to give you information in kind of a structured format. Put the segment about what it says about you in this spot, who it's for, so that you can more easily compare them. But what you want to do is make sure that a few things are accurate. Who it's for should be accurate in this case. Is the pricing model that it reports the same? Are the features that it lists the same as the ones you would want to be listed? And does it report the right category? And if any of those things are wrong, then you have a different job to do to fix it. And we'll show you how to do that in a little bit. This tool shows you the matches, what matched, what didn't match, and why, which makes it a little bit easier to figure out what you should correct. But you don't need the tool to do it. You can do this by hand, no problem. So that's the first thing that you want to do, is answer the question, does AI accurately reflect what my company is about, who it's for, what my differentiators are? The next thing you want to do is find out if somebody that might be a good prospect for me is asking about my product, service, solution, food, whatever it is that I offer. Does AI recommend me, and how often does it recommend me versus my closest competitors? So the next section down here is an AI visibility metrics. So what you want to do is you want to take a handful of key queries, things that you believe that your prospects are going to be searching for on AI. So in this case, what platform helps with tracking my at-home workouts and metrics? That's something that somebody who might be interested in Peloton might very well type into an AI. Compare different fitness equipment solutions for small home gym. Absolutely a Peloton thing. Best fitness options. And what you want to do is run each one of these prompts, again, against every platform that you care about checking against. In this case, you don't really need to run it without browsing. It's fine to just use with browsing. And it's going to give you a summary. So it's going to say, what's your space-saving pick? It's going to list some of the different options here. And there's your brand and there's others. And what it'll do is it'll give you a list of citations. So you want to figure out, am I showing up in this list of brands that it mentions, and where and relative to my competitors am I showing up? So you can run that for all of these. Perplexity here also mentions Peloton. There's number 3, gives a couple of other options there. So again, for each one of these queries, you want to run this against every AI that you check about. And you want to measure, okay, do I show up in the summary, and am I included in the sources? Those are the only 2 things that you need to do on a regular basis to verify that your site is showing up often and to the right people and is being represented accurately. As an additional step, it always helps to do a technical analysis. Some of this stuff is traditional web development or search engine optimization stuff, but it's always good to run too. Make sure that your page is structured appropriately so that search engines and AI can understand it. Accessibility, make sure that it meets all of those standards. You can be downranked if it doesn't. Is your content readable? Is it written in a format that both humans and AI can understand easily? And does your site perform well? Very often, because those searches in an AI chat are done in real time, if your site is slow to respond or doesn't respond, you'll lose out on an opportunity. So these are all important things to cover. So having done that for a big company like Peloton, let's see what a small company looks like. So I happen to run this against a roofing contractor in Minneapolis. And it's important to note that you can actually do location-specific searches with these things. So whatever your prompt is, just add the location context on top of it, and the AI will give you local competition and put a local context on top of your query. So it's Kaufman Roofing, again, out of Minneapolis. Notice that they score better than a large company like Peloton in a lot of brand consistency stuff. So one of the coolest things about AI is that you can be better at this. It's a brand new channel. You can actually be better at this than established and major companies. They have very, very fancy and very expensive budgets for web design, and that can actually hurt AI because they're putting in more designs, more visuals, complex structures that AI doesn't necessarily understand. A simpler site, one that's done on a budget, can actually perform much better just because it's easier for an AI to understand. So you can see here, they're also showing up with discovery queries, get their brand snapshot, what their differentiators are and all that. Here's a list of their competitors. If you don't, it's always worth taking a look at these just to make sure that you're aware of that you feel like, yes, these are in fact your competitors. And then the same thing as Peloton. You look at the various AIs and what they say about you, both with and without web browsing enabled, and make sure that it's accurate. And do the exact same thing with your discovery queries, your AI stuff here. Best roofing contractor services, a very, very typical query that someone might look in AI for something that you would want to be mentioned for. Affordable, who can help? This would be more of a local review. What are the best rated contractors in there? So here again, 6 consistently well rated. Boy, again, if you're Kaufman Roofing and this is what comes back here, you got to be pretty happy with that. That's basically the equivalent of a #1 ranking in Google search. And same thing with comparison here. So those are really the 2 things that you need to be concerned about when you're running an AI brand audit. So the next question that folks ask me is, okay, so yes, I should probably be doing this. How often do I need to do this? Do I need to run it daily? Do I need to run it weekly? And the answer is no, right? This can take, if you're doing this by hand, this can be a half-hour project to run, even if you've got all this stuff done, copying down the information, storing it somewhere. That could be a half-an-hour project. The good news is you don't have to run this daily. You don't really even have to run it weekly. There's 2 times that I recommend that folks run an audit like this. First thing is you want to run it after you make a major change to your website. So if your website is updated, you've updated information, perhaps you ran a report and you said, oh, I really want to be better at this stuff and I made some changes to clarify my differentiators or things like that. Wait about a week to 10 days or so. Run another one of these to make sure that the new changes you've made are picked up. The next thing you want to do is you want to run these every time the AI updates what's called their underlying models. So all of these AI tools have a foundational model of information that they use to answer queries. These are the things that they can answer without needing web access. They can just communicate back to you confidently. They make updates to these about every 6 weeks or so. And there are posts out there, like you can follow their LinkedIn pages, you can follow them on social media, you can go to their website and find out when they make an update. Once they make an update, there's a chance that the information will be either improved, which is good for you to know. You might be included in their AI without web browsing now, but there's a chance because they're changing things that it may now give inaccurate information. So something you want to do, to try and fix that or clarify it. So again, you only have to run these every 4-6 weeks, somewhere around there. So you don't need a tool for this. You certainly don't need a subscription-based tool for this because you're probably not going to get value out of that. Spyglasses runs on demand. You can pay for one individual report, only run when you need it. But again, you don't necessarily need a tool. You can use just yourself and a ChatGPT prompt and a spreadsheet and do everything here just fine. If you find things that are wrong, the Spyglasses website, I'll drop a link in the comments, has some guides to help you with this. You can certainly engage in a professional. Some of this requires website updates. Some of this requires engaging, like putting out press releases, telling more people about your company, since AI doesn't just consider your website, it considers your brand across the web. So building brand presence across the web is also an important part to improving these scores. But there's a couple of guides here that are a good place to start. Again, I'll drop those in comments for you. And hopefully this was helpful in understanding how to run an AI brand audit.